How to Read a Book, by Mortimer J. Adler and Van Doren. Introduction. Have you ever sat down with a book, turned the pages, followed the lines, and after 10 minutes, realized you have no memory of what you just read? Your eyes moved, but your mind was somewhere else entirely. Or perhaps you've tackled a famous, important book, one of those classics everyone says you should read, only to feel like you're hitting a brick wall. The words are English, but they don't seem to connect. You feel dull, or maybe that the book is just too smart for you. If you've ever felt that frustration, then you've stood at the doorway of a secret that most people never discover. The secret is this: reading, true reading, is not a passive activity. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. Tonight, we're going to explore a book that is more than just a guide, it's a key. First published in 1940 and refined over decades, How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Van Doren has become a timeless classic, a living phenomenon that has taught millions how to transform reading from a chore into a profound conversation. Adler, a brilliant philosopher and educator, spent his life wrestling with the greatest ideas of Western civilization, and he believed, with every fiber of his being, that these ideas were not just for scholars in ivory towers. They were for everyone. But to access them, you needed the right tools. This book is that toolbox. It promises that the greatest works of history, philosophy, and science are not locked away from you. They are waiting for you to learn how to turn the key. And by the end of our journey together tonight, you will understand the framework that makes this possible. You will learn the 4 distinct levels of reading, moving from a grade school understanding to the level of a true master. You won't just learn to read faster, you'll learn to read deeper, to question, to understand, and ultimately, to grow. This isn't just about finishing more books. It's about letting the right books finish changing you. Book summary. Let's begin with a simple, powerful analogy the authors give us. Many people think of reading like this: a writer writes, and a reader reads. The writer is active, the reader is passive. It's like a pitcher throwing a ball, and you, the reader, are just a wall it hits. But Adler and Van Doren say this is completely wrong. True reading isn't like being a wall. It's like being the catcher in a baseball game. The pitcher throws the ball, that's the author. But the catcher has to be awake, alert, and ready. He has to anticipate the pitch, adjust his position, and actively receive the ball. If he's asleep, the ball just bounces off him. The game can't happen. Communication is the same. An author has thrown a complex idea across time and space, and it's your job, as the reader, to be an active catcher. The more active you are, the better you read. And the most active reading leads not just to knowing more facts, but to something far more valuable: understanding. This brings us to the first crucial distinction in the book: the difference between reading for information and reading for understanding. Reading for information is what you do when you read a newspaper, a magazine, or a simple article. The material is on the same level as you are. You absorb facts, data, stories. Your knowledge increases, but your mind hasn't really been stretched. You're adding water to a glass. Reading for understanding is different. This is what you do when you tackle a book that is above you. A book that challenges your thinking, that presents ideas you've never considered, written by someone who, on this subject, knows more than you do. Here, you are not just adding water to the glass, you are making the glass itself bigger. This kind of reading elevates you. It's like pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. You start in a state of understanding less, and through your own mental effort, with only the book as your guide, you pull yourself up to a state of understanding more. This is the goal. But how do you get there? The authors give us a roadmap, a staircase with 4 distinct levels of reading. Each level builds upon the last. You can't get to the fourth without mastering the first three. The first level is elementary reading. This is what we learn in grade school. It's the basic skill of recognizing words and understanding literal sentences. It's answering the question, what does the sentence say? We all have this skill, or you wouldn't be listening right now. But for many people, this is where their training in reading stops. For their entire lives, they remain elementary readers, never knowing there are higher levels. This is where the journey truly begins. The second level is inspectional reading. This is the art of getting the most out of a book in a limited amount of time. It's not about lazy skimming, it's a strategic survey. Think of yourself as a detective arriving at the scene of a crime. You don't start by examining every speck of dust. You do a quick, systematic sweep of the entire area to get the lay of the land. Inspectional reading has two steps. The first is what the authors call systematic skimming. Before you commit hours to a book, you give it a thorough inspection. This should take you maybe 15 to 30 minutes. First, you look at the title and the subtitle. They are the author's first clues. Then, you study the table of contents. The authors call this the roadmap of the book. It's astonishing how many people skip it. A good author has spent a great deal of time crafting this outline, showing you the structure of their argument. Next, you check the index. Look for the terms with the most references. This tells you what the author thinks is most important. Flip to a few of those passages. You might land right on the heart of the book. Then, read the publisher's blurb on the dust jacket. Often, the author wrote it themselves, trying to summarize their core message. Finally, look for summary chapters or statements at the beginning or end of pivotal chapters. Read the first few and the last few pages of the book. Authors can't resist summing up their big idea at the end. After this quick process, you will know what kind of book it is, what it's about, what its main parts are, and whether it deserves a deeper read. You've created a mental map. The second step of inspectional reading is superficial reading. And here we come to one of the most powerful, counterintuitive pieces of advice in the entire book. When you tackle a difficult book for the first time, read it all the way through without stopping. Don't stop to look up words you don't know. Don't stop to ponder a paragraph that confuses you. Don't get stuck on a footnote. Just keep going. Pay attention to what you can understand and keep moving. Why? Because if you get bogged down in the details, you will lose the whole. You'll miss the forest for the trees. Most of us were taught the opposite. We were told to look up every word, to understand every sentence before moving on. But that's how you get discouraged and give up. By reading through the first time, even if you only grasp 50% of it, you gain an understanding of the whole structure. You have the context. Now, when you go back for a second, more careful read, the difficult parts will make much more sense. You'll know where the author is going. This first, quick pass is like seeing the whole puzzle box picture before you start fitting the pieces. It's a game changer. Inspectional reading gives you the lay of the land. But to truly understand a great book, you must move to the third level, analytical reading. This is the heart of the book, and the heart of deep learning. Analytical reading is a full-body workout for your mind. It's where you have that deep, demanding conversation with the author. The goal here is complete ownership of the book. As Francis Bacon said, some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Analytical reading is chewing and digesting. This level is broken down into 3 stages, which correspond to the 4 fundamental questions you must ask of any book you want to understand. The first stage of analytical reading is about understanding the book's structure. It's about building the skeleton. The first rule is, classify the book. You have to know what kind of book you're reading. Is it a history book? A philosophy book? A science book? Is it theoretical? explaining that something is the case, or is it practical, teaching you how to do something? You wouldn't read a cookbook the same way you read a history of the Roman Empire. Knowing the genre sets your expectations and tells you what kind of questions to ask. The second rule is, state the unity of the book. In a single sentence or a short paragraph, what is the main point, the central theme of the entire book? If you can't say what a book is about in a nutshell, you haven't truly understood its core. Aristotle, in his Poetics, did this for Homer's Odyssey. He boiled that epic journey down to a few sentences. A man is away from home, his family is in trouble, and after many trials, he returns and defeats his enemies. That, Aristotle said, is the essence of the plot. The rest is episode. Finding that essence is your job. The third rule is, outline the book's major parts. A great book is like a well-designed house. It has many rooms, all connected. You need to see how the author moves from one part of the argument to the next, building his case step by step. This isn't just about listing chapter titles. It's about seeing the logical flow, how the major parts support the unity of the whole. You are X-raying the book to see its structure. The fourth rule is, define the problem the author is trying to solve. Every good expository book is an attempt to answer a question or a set of questions. What are they? Why did the author feel the need to write this book? If you can state the author's central questions clearly, you are well on your way to understanding their answers. Once you've done this, once you've built the skeleton, you're ready for the second stage of analytical reading. This is about interpreting the book's content. It's about putting flesh on the bones. The fifth rule is, come to terms with the author. This is perhaps the most critical step. It's not about finding important words, it's about finding important terms. A word can have many meanings. A term is a word used in one, specific, unambiguous sense. When an author says liberty, what does he mean by it? Does he mean freedom from government, or freedom to achieve one's potential? If you read your meaning into his word, you're not communicating. You're just talking past each other. Your job is to discover the author's key words and figure out precisely how he is using them. You have to build a shared vocabulary. Until you do, you can't have a real conversation. The sixth rule is, grasp the author's leading propositions. A proposition is a declaration of knowledge or opinion. It's the author's answer to a question. You find these in his most important sentences. Your job is to spot these key sentences and know what they mean. The best test for this? State the proposition in your own words. If you can only repeat the author's sentence, you've only swallowed the words. You haven't digested the thought. The seventh rule is, know the author's arguments. Find the sequences of sentences where the author gives reasons for his propositions. An argument is a series of statements that lead to a conclusion. It's the because part. Why should you believe this proposition is true? The author must give you reasons. You need to be able to follow his train of thought, to see how he moves from premises to conclusions. You should be able to put his basic arguments into a nutshell. The eighth rule is, determine which problems the author has solved. After you've found his questions, his terms, his propositions, and his arguments, you can now ask, did he succeed? Which of his initial questions did he answer? Did he raise new questions in the process? Did he know which ones he failed to solve? At this point, you have done the hard work of understanding. You have listened patiently. You have followed every step of the author's thought. Now, and only now, are you ready for the third and final stage of analytical reading, criticizing the book fairly. Criticism doesn't just mean disagreeing. It means judging. And agreeing is as much an act of judgment as disagreeing. But there are rules of intellectual etiquette. The ninth rule is, you must be able to say I understand before you say I agree, I disagree, or I suspend judgment. To agree without understanding is meaningless. To disagree without understanding is arrogant. Don't rush to judgment. The author deserves a fair hearing, and you owe it to yourself to understand a position before you reject it. The 10th rule is, when you disagree, do so reasonably. Don't be contentious just for the sake of arguing. The goal isn't to win a debate, it's to get closer to the truth. If you see a point, admit it. The 11th rule is, respect the difference between knowledge and personal opinion. If you disagree, you must give reasons for your disagreement. It's not enough to say, I don't like his conclusions. You have to show where the author went wrong. And this brings us to the 4 specific points of criticism. If you disagree, it must be for one of these 4 reasons. First, you can say the author is uninformed. This means he lacks a piece of knowledge relevant to his argument. For example, Darwin, when he wrote The Origin of Species, was uninformed about genetics, which wasn't discovered until later. To make this criticism, you must be able to state the knowledge the author lacked and show how it matters. Second, you can say the author is misinformed. This means he has asserted something that is not true. He has made a mistake about the facts. To make this criticism, you must be able to state the truth and prove that his assertion is false. Third, you can say the author is illogical. This means his reasoning is flawed. His conclusions do not follow from his premises. There is a fallacy in his argument. You must be able to point out the exact flaw in his logic. Fourth, you can say the author's analysis is incomplete. This means he hasn't solved all the problems he started with, or he hasn't seen all the implications of his ideas. You can say he didn't go far enough. This is the most common criticism of even the greatest books, because no work is ever truly complete. If you cannot make any of these 4 criticisms, then you are obligated to agree, at least in part. You can't just say, I see no flaws, but I still don't agree. That's just expressing a prejudice, not making a judgment. These 3 levels, elementary, inspectional, and analytical, are a powerful arsenal. But there is one final, highest level of reading. It's the most complex and demanding of all. The authors call it syntopical reading. This is the level you reach when you read not just one book on a subject, but several, and place them in relation to one another. Your goal is not to understand a single book, but to understand a subject. You are no longer the student of one master, you are the master of a whole conversation. Imagine you want to understand the idea of love. You gather a bibliography of 100 books, from Plato to Freud to modern psychologists. How do you begin? First, you use inspectional reading to survey your whole bibliography. You quickly identify which books are truly relevant to your specific question. You narrow down the field. Second, and this is the most difficult step, you bring the authors to terms. In analytical reading, you try to understand the author's terms. Here, you must create your own neutral terminology for the subject. Freud talks about libido, Plato talks about eros, and a Christian theologian talks about charity. They are all talking about love, but they are not using the same language. You must create a set of terms that allows you to translate all of their ideas into a common framework. You become the master of the terminology. Third, you get the questions clear. You frame a set of neutral questions that all or most of your authors can be interpreted as answering. Does love always involve desire? Is it an emotion or an act of will? Can we love what is not good? The authors may not have asked these questions explicitly, but you must find their answers, even if they are only implied. Fourth, you define the issues. When authors give different answers to the same question, an issue is formed. Your job is to map out these disagreements. Author A and B say this, while authors C and D say that. You create an ordered debate where one might not have existed. Finally, you analyze the discussion. You don't take sides. Your goal is to understand the whole conversation, in all its complexity. The truth, on a profound subject, is rarely found in one author's answer. It's often found in the tension, the dialogue, the conflict between all the different answers. You achieve what the authors call dialectical objectivity. You present the conversation in an ordered way, showing all the different points of view, so that you, and anyone else, can gain a deeper understanding of the subject than any single book could provide. Syntopical reading is the ultimate goal. It's where you move from being a learner to being a genuine contributor to the great conversation. This journey through the 4 levels of reading is not just about technique. It's about a fundamental shift in your relationship with books, and with your own mind. Adler and Van Doren remind us that the human mind, unlike the body, has no limit to its growth. But it can atrophy if it's not used. Reading for amusement and information are fine, but they are like coasting. Reading for understanding is the heavy lifting. It's the mental exercise that keeps your mind alive, growing, and strong. The books that challenge you are the ones that change you. They are the ones that make you stretch. And in that stretching, you don't just become a better reader. You become a little more than you were before. Commentary. When you step back and look at how to read a book, you realize it's not really about a technique. It's about a philosophy of life. In a world that is constantly pulling at our attention with notifications, headlines, and endless streams of content, Adler and Van Doren offer a powerful antidote: the quiet, focused, and deeply rewarding act of understanding. What strikes me most about their message, especially today, is its profound respect for both the author and the reader. It respects the author enough to say, "I will do the hard work of truly understanding what you have labored to communicate." It's an act of intellectual humility. But it also respects the reader enough to say, "You are not a passive receptacle. You are an equal partner in this conversation." Your mind is capable of judging, of questioning, and of forming its own conclusions. It is an act of intellectual empowerment. This book is a declaration of war against passive consumption. It tells us that knowledge is not something you download. Understanding is something you build. And you build it by actively engaging with the greatest minds that have come before us. The rules of reading aren't just a checklist, they are a discipline for a free mind. They teach you to be patient, to listen before you speak, to seek clarity before you judge, and to support your opinions with reason. These aren't just reading skills, they are life skills. They are the foundation of civil discourse and clear thinking. So, how can you start putting these powerful ideas into practice today? Here are a few simple actions you can take. First, pick one challenging book from your shelf, one you've always wanted to read but felt intimidated by. This week, don't try to read it. Just give it an inspectional reading. Spend 30 minutes with it. Read the title, the table of contents, the index, the beginning and end. Get the lay of the land. That's it. You'll be amazed at how much clearer and more approachable the book becomes. Second, for the next few days, as you read anything, an article, a chapter of a book, even a long email, consciously ask yourself the 4 main questions. What is this about as a whole? What is being said in detail? And how? Is it true? And finally, what of it? Just the act of asking these questions will transform you from a passive reader into an active one. Third, get a pencil and start writing in your books. Underline passages that resonate. Write questions in the margin. Argue with the author. Make the book your own. A book that has been marked up is a book that has been loved, wrestled with, and understood. That was the book summary of How to Read a Book by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren. We've explored the main pathways of this incredible guide today, but I have to be honest with you, a summary is like a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the landmarks and the main roads, but it can never replace the experience of actually walking the trails, breathing the air, and feeling the sun on your face. The real magic of this book, and of any great book, happens in the quiet moments of your own reading, when a particular idea connects with your own experience in a way you never expected. This summary is here to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a fire in you, then I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new skill. It's about beginning a lifelong adventure of mental and spiritual growth. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to our channel. It helps us reach more people who, like you, are on a journey of growth. We have many more explorations of life-changing books from the Billionaire's Bookshelf coming your way. Let's keep learning and growing together.